What's going on, Soul Tribe? And welcome to Alchemist Astrology. Justin here, and are you ready to get into them Lunar Shenanigans? Which is a weekly show that goes over the astrology of the moon, what sign it's in, what phase it's in, when it happens to be going void, of course, and to get a feel of the different transits that and aspects that the moon forms with the other celestial bodies, and yeah, just to help get you as most equipped for what to expect for the week ahead. It's good to sync up with that good old moon. And this one is a there's a lot that's going on. This is one of the pretty much the most notable week of the month of April. While the moon it's doing its thing, the moon personally is doing a lot of got some pretty nice pockets in there when the moon is in Pisces and when the moon is in Taurus. But we have this in the middle period there when the moon's going through Aries, where it's that Aries part of our chart is loaded. There's a lot of activity that's going on to there, a lot of things that are getting ready to that are forming there. There's going to be the moon's going to do this like series of conjunctions that Aries part is going to be busy, and then it almost gives a feel as we go towards the end of the week this trying to hope for the best and not sure what to do with that. It almost leads on a bit of a cliffhanger because we're getting ready to be get started into a new lunar cycle as we're wrapping up this one here. So a lot of things that we're going to be unpacking in this week's one. But before we jump into that, if you want to support the work that I'm doing further, down in the description box there's a link for my Patreon page, and I have couple tiers on there. One of them will give you access to the Lucky Day podcast, which is a monthly show for the most auspicious dates for each month for whatever endeavor that you're trying to initiate. And the other one will give you access to a personalized transit report from me, amongst other things, and some new information and videos and educational things that I plan on releasing here over the next couple of months there. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely go check that out. But let's jump into this thing here. I'm going to go over the week of April 14th through the 20th, 2026. And when we're starting off this on the 14th here, we're starting off a big green here. We're wrapping up that time with the moon in Pisces, and this was that period of time where the moon is in aversion to the malefic, so they can't witness the moon right now and being give this testimony. It's just from the benefics here that the moon is going that the moon's talking to. So this is a particularly nice point in time, but there's this contradiction that's kind of happening here that I want to point out, because even though there's this loveliness that's happening, the moon's going to form a trine with Jupiter, going to form a sextile with Venus. In the background there we have this Mars, Saturn, and then Mercury, as you see here, is I think going to actually move into Aries at some point today on this day on the 14th. And so there's that's building up as well. So one sort of thing that I get when you think about the trine, this is when the celestial bodies are 120 degrees apart from one another. So there's this like elements that's going on. It's the most positive aspect when we're thinking about the trine, and we're talking the trine with Big Papa, who's exalted. The moon and Jupiter have this mutual reception that's going on with them both being in each other's domiciles here. And so even though there is, I think, this stuff that's brewing with this conjunction that's going to be the topic here in the community for a bit, and seeing what's coming into this, Jupiter's still trying to deliver some good that's happening. There's still this chance for, I think, one, just taking in those moments when you can to just be in to find those moments of peace in life. I think about Jupiter as that sort of Jupiter and Venus. I've been thinking about their sort of religious connotations that they get, or delineations that happen, and I think of that idea of getting in touch with that kind of higher force of oneself, that voices that is supporting, and that's wanting to bring the goodness, bring the balance, bring the peace, and then Venus being the acts of that, the prayer, the meditation, and something like that. So that's what this on a level kind of gives me, finding those pockets of peace, those pockets of joy. Whether it's, I'm just thinking if it's just with you, then doing those moments of oneness, being with the body, thinking about the moon representing the body, being in one space, whatever that happens to look like. That could be being with one's children. I think think about Jupiter too, Jupiter's a lot of the, or a couple of the significators start of Jupiter deals with like childbearing and engendering, and I think of that childlike wonder and appreciation for the experiences and trying to even work in maybe just like acts of play as one can, engage in one's imagination and things and even to get to being together with one's family, because I think about moon sextile Venus, that's being together with friends, with family, with loved ones, whether it be that could be like your with animals, whatever that happens to be looking like. But this gives me a very kind of strong camaraderie, being together, making some sort of connections. Forgiveness, that's even something I think that can come through there. That like there's that making this space. It's a really kind of, I mean, when you think of like just that combination, Cancer, Taurus, Pisces, like that, just something about that just feels really trying to create some sort of safe pocket, trying to create trying to soothe something, trying to heal something here. So I like this. I like this aspect. I like this day. I like the stuff that's building up, and I think that's something too. While the moon is wrapping up its time to in Pisces again, to just try to find those as one makes as it makes sense. Maybe this can be appreciated. I think of Venus and how it deals with the arts, doing something maybe where maybe you can be doing something around your house, maybe sprucing up the place, maybe you're doing some sort of like artwork, maybe you're something along those lines. I think maybe having some music where you're playing again. Let's say you don't have anything to play, maybe you're just making your own music, doing some humming, doing some things together, whatever that happens to be, however big or how small that looks. You're just finding those moments for goodness and things along those lines, and spreading the cheer as one can. I think that is the benefics, really trying to bring in some support in these kind of in uncertainty. I think so. That's something I think we can, as one can, to try to find those pockets and make those times. So just something to think about, because it's kind of starting out the box. I like how we're starting this week off, because then we get to the 15th, and this is where things start to get where a lot of heat is coming into the mix, because the moon is going to move into Aries at about 7:03 a.m. Pacific time. And if you're looking at the chart here, I have that chart of the moon entering into Aries. And really, this is one of those times, like, really take a minute. If you're looking at the chart, I'm working with the classical planets, and so that should just even show how amazing this is, even in that we have three planets in both the luminaries, all in Aries. There's this just huge stellium that's happening here. The Aries part of our star chart is very active at this period of time, and that means something different for everybody. And that would be one where, just even looking at that, when we get a lay of the land here with the moon entering into Aries, you want to look to see what house or houses Aries is, that you have Aries in, what themes are going to be showing up for you. See how prominent those themes maybe tend to be. This would be one too if you have a lot of cardinal placements. That's going to be Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. This is an active time for you. There's a lot that's going on here. Again, in that Aries portion, that it'll be definitely, it's going to be lighting up all of those placements. For example, with me, I'm looking at this right now, but this one, I haven't been personally too concerned about this one, because this is actually forming a lot of harmonious aspects with all of my Leo placements, and even like my Saturn placements. The only hard one is the aspect is with my Sun, so that's the only thing. But generally, this is a pretty smooth pocket, and there's a lot of stuff that's happening in my. I have Leo rising, so there's a lot that's happening in my ninth house with like education, astrology, and things along those lines that I've been thinking of. Travel is actually very, very fascinating. That's something recently that just came up here. So that's how this is a good way to understand how this is not just working on a mundane level, but again on a personal level, and understanding like and have even some yeah, some understanding for those like, oh, my cardinal friends, like they're really, that explains all this busyness that's going on in their charts there. Now, the moon, again, on a mundane sense, is the only planet that is not talking with is Venus. It's going to have these series of conjunctions that's going to go with Mercury, Mars, Saturn, the Sun, and then it's going to have a square with Jupiter in between that. But first, it's got to get through these conjunctions, and the conjunctions are, because we have you see here that Mercury, Mars, and Saturn, the conjunctions are when the celestial bodies are in the, like you see here with all this Aries, they're co-present with one another, so they're all in the same sign. And more importantly, when they're applying, like how Saturn and Mars and all of them here are here. But first, the moon's going to form a conjunction with Mercury, and so we're really getting an understanding of what is brewing up here. How, thinking about really all the things that have happened this month that have been going on. It's been kind of been wild, especially I think since Mars has been moved into Aries, and things have been kind of say. Well, when I'm recording this is a little early before that, but that is going to be interesting to see, to understand where this is going to see what sort of news, how the news is going to change, how the affects the people when we're thinking about the moon, how that's affecting your city, how that's affecting your homeland, whatever that happens to look like, how that affects travel, how that's going to affect trade and commerce when we're thinking about the moon forming conjunction with Mars. How are people going to be moving going forward, depending on how resources are looking, so that's going to be something that's going to be in the forefront. I do think there are going to be these immediate things that are going to be happening, but it feels the way that this lunar cycle is ending. It just feels like there's going to be more long-term things from the actions that have happened here, because then we get to that moon conjunct Mars, and this is one of those periods of time when the moon, there's some more harder aspects for the moon, because the conjunctions, with them being a fusion of energy, they're not inherently positive or negative like the trines, sextiles, or the squares and the oppositions. The conjunctions are going to depend on who the celestial bodies are in this conversation. And with the moon talking with both of the malefics here, there's going to be more of that. Maybe we see with Mars, there may be some sort of like exile that happens, some sort of news of needing to move, or some sort of banishment that happens. So you could see Mars can bring about quarrels with friends. Mars is a separating sort of significator. It can bring about these. It can bring about lawsuits. Of course, there's a natural war, violence, things that comes with Mars. But this gives almost like the consequences of these sort of martial campaigns that are happening here, and then that moon forming a conjunction with Saturn, that can create these anxieties, not sure where things are going to go over time. And when we're talking about trade, during Saturn in the mix, that can deal with like waterside trade too, when we're thinking about that as well, the trades that we do on the land and on the sea, thinking about how what that is with Saturn. But I even think about too, even like our relationship with the land, how that changes over time as that comes through. I was thinking about Saturn and that idea. Saturn was thought to be the ruler of ignorance and necessity. And I think about that sort of pressures from Mars, that and how the actions that we do under pressure. And yeah, so that would be when I pay attention to any sort of news that is coming up. This on a Because the weird thing about this too, with this conjunction that's forming between those three, is that Mars is actually not, minus that, applying to Saturn. Mars is not in bad shape. It's in its home. It's in its domicile here. The Sun is even here for all of this, the exaltation lord of Aries, and so you would hope that there could be some sort of action. I think on a constructive note, taking some sort of action, taking some sort of, okay, if things are going this way, then I'm gonna have to do use that martial force to move things in a different direction, a more favorable one. But this may be something where I may have to work under some pressure with that moon conjunct Mars conjunct Saturn. It's a lot, I think, to comprehend here. I think there are going to be changes in we could see maybe changes in different sorts of jobs that can come up with there, not just the total removal of some, but even some new ones coming out of this things here. So I think we're going to have to see what we're taking with this one. This is going to be a one where I think there are going to be a lot of abrupt sort of things that are going to be happening. That we're gonna have to navigate together as we're going through this one. But this is, as you see again, there's this Aries portion. There's a lot of martial energy in the astrology right now. So yeah, this is one where I'd even be mindful of any sort of like forceful conversations, any sort of things along those lines. You could see maybe even new sort of constructions, new buildings, maybe that go up, maybe ones that are coming down, businesses ending, things along those lines. News. I just heard some interesting news about these different stores that are being replaced here, which I thought was a fascinating move. But yeah, we can see a lot of that's going to be happening there. Maybe even changes in leadership, that could potentially come up, some sort of new things that show up there. So we'll see as we kind of navigate that. And then we get to the 16th here, and the moon's going to form a square with Big Papa. And the moon's gone through all those conjunctions now, and now what this gives me is this feeling of, because the squares are when the celestial bodies are 90 degrees apart from one another, so they're in those like modalities of cardinal signs here in this particular instance. And when I think of a square with the benefics, this could be where we go through all those conjunctions, and maybe there's some sort of leadership change, and now the moon's feeling at odds with that change. Is this new person, that this new promotion, just as an example, let's say there's a change in a good example I like using is like a change in management, for example, and there are all these talks of, I'm going to bring this change, I'm going to do all these things, but as we start to get along, none of the promises are being met, or at least not to the degree that we expected them to. And I mean, to be kind of realistic, it's not I wouldn't be surprised if they're like sort of like almost like overestimating one's power, or something along those lines here, because Jupiter's actually not in the Jupiter's getting a lot of pressure by whole sign from both of the malefics. They're both overcoming Jupiter, even though Jupiter is in its exaltation. It's like it's raised up and is doing this thing, but the malefics got some feelings about that. There's still something that's trying to get in the way of the good stuff happening here. So this one is definitely kind of a mixed bag there, and this could be where, if that was an example that's happening, maybe the negative, sure, it's a negative that maybe that, let's say this hypothetical management wasn't able to deliver the goods that we thought, but in turn this creates then I'm going to go find somewhere that it can, or maybe even get you to where, like, okay, like I want to become that person that can create this abundance for other people to deposit this thing to, so that's where I think that the squares with the benefics, even though it's a harder aspect, it can lead to some challenges, some squanderings of the abundance. It can bring about a matter of perspective. Maybe one thing that comes with the Jupiter, this kind of Moon Jupiter square here, but it's this feeling of, I think Jupiter deals with that idea of trust too, and having there's this like, it gives me like an anxious, or again, of the uncertainty of like, okay, there's all this beneficence that's promised, but how is that actually going to be delivered? That sounds really great in theory, barely maybe even sounds great in theory, like, but how can we actually, is that something that can be materialized? Is that something that can be executed? So yeah, that's a kind of a mix, weird mix that's happening with that 16th there. Then we get to the 17th, and before the moon moves into Taurus, we're going to have the new moon, and that's going to happen at about 4:51 a.m. Pacific time. And I have the chart up here. It's happening at 27 degrees and 28 minutes of Aries. And when we're looking at this, if we're just talking about how this cycle may potentially look, we got that triple conjunction baked in there. All of them are within 2 degrees of each other, and so suffice it to say, this is going to be one that things are going to be active. I think starting this off, as we all these planets are going through Aries and completing their conjunctions with one another. And it's going to be something that I think when we think about the moon being under the beams of the sun's making moves that maybe the people can't see yet. Because it was always thought when it was when a planet is under the beams, the significator is it's invisible in a sense, and that's like we won't get an idea till we get to that new moon and things start moving off, and the moon starts getting away from the sun and starts to grow in light, so we can see some sort of clarity there. But yeah, this is I'm glad with this, if I had to throw some sprinkle of positivity in that, is that Jupiter's at least witnessing this new moon as well by whole sign. There's so it's not completely devoid of the protection of the benefics here, but I think it's still going to be one where a lot of things are building up, and some notable things that are building up, because it's just like you don't get that often. I think the last time that Mars, Mercury, and Saturn were all conjunct in Aries to close together like this, I think it was back in like 96 when I was last looking at that, and they were all in Aries. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. This and it's even interesting too. This new moon is in the bounds of Saturn, so it's like Saturn not being in the totally best space. We'll see. We'll see how this new moon is going to. I think it's going to be a bit of an active one to start for sure. And then after we get through that, after that whole trek through Aries, we get to where the moon moves into Taurus, and that's going to happen at about 8:57 a.m. Pacific time. And that's the reason I have that in green, because when we look at the lay of the land here, again, this is that little pocket where the moon is not being witnessed by the malefics anymore like it was in Pisces. It's just going to form a conjunction with Venus, who's the domicile lord of Taurus there. So you got the domicile and the exaltation lord in here now. In Taurus, Jupiter is exalted here in Cancer. So that's all the moon's going to be witnessing right now. It's like the moon's going to be just trying to find some goodness. This is where you want to look to at the Taurus portion of your chart, what house or houses that this is responsible for, because whenever there are planets going through that, especially if you have a lot of fixed placements, that's Taurus, Leo, Aquarius, and Scorpion, Aquarius, yeah, those are going to be more active periods of time for you. I personally like when the moon's in Taurus. This is nice. I've been enjoying Venus in Taurus so far. Definitely been feeling inspired with Venus, so that's been really kind of nice there, getting some ideas for some projects, and now it's just really just kind of making more time to execute them. But yeah, this is something to pay attention to, and it's weird, just like coming off of that, and while it's like the moon is trying to find some goodness while this stuff is building up in the background. And let's talk about that goodness, because on the 18th, the moon is going to first form a sextile with Jupiter, and then will form a conjunction with Venus. And again, the sextiles are when the celestial bodies are 60 degrees apart from one another. They're similar with like the trine. They're just a little bit weaker though, but it's one of a beneficial aspect. There's some opportunity here for some for those Jupiterian things, for maybe making some new connections, for rising in some sort of rank here. So that's Yeah, that's almost interesting in itself. You know, where there's some sort of elevation that's still potentially happening here, some sort of connections that's coming. When even when we're thinking about Moon conjunct Venus, Venus is one that likes to bring people together, friendships, companionships. Jupiter is like that friends of great people, of high rank, prosperity, things of people who hold offices, stuff along those lines. So yeah, I'd be curious to see what that looks like. I really want to know how these positive pockets are forming in these more of kind of challenges that are showing up there. But this is nice, you know. This is where that you know we're starting off after that lunar cycle. It's like we ended or we started or ended with a bit of a bit of a rocky end there, and then it's like we get into this new one there, and then the moon's just coming into just benefics. It's just running into him. It's like let's get away from all that martial Saturnian stuff for a minute. Let's just take let's take these couple days and be exalted in Taurus. Let's just chill in the pastures. Let's do the thing. Let's bring some fairness. Let's bring some sweetness. Let's bring some whatever that might be. Look, this could be a day to do some to really do some show some appreciation for art, for beauty. Just thinking with Venus there. Again, I think this is a good one if you have kids, hanging with Venus there, making some time, doing some fun things with some kids, maybe having some sort of like little get together where maybe we're playing music, maybe we're doing maybe we're drawing together, we're cleaning up stuff together, whatever that happens to be. But I'd be even kind of curious maybe if there's some sort of like innovation maybe in like music that's happening there that the people appreciate, maybe something. I'm just thinking about aspects of Venus, maybe something where a prominent female figure does something with is in the kind of in the mundane news. That could be something that happens there. Yeah, some sort of weird. I don't want to say weird, but some sort of it feels out of place with what's kind of building up here. So again, I'm just curious to see how that's going to look in the as things start to unfold here. Because then we get to the 19th, and the moon is going to finish up its time in Taurus, and then it's going to move into Gemini at about 9:17 a.m. Pacific time. Now we're waxing in light here, and when we get a lay of the land for this one, the moon is now is forming more. We still It's still going to be going through hit those planets that just had a conjunction with while in Aries, but now it's there's a bit of ease that's coming through there. There's still something that's happening with them, but the pressures doesn't feel as heavy as it does when we get to once we get to Cancer. Then there's going to be maybe a bit more tension that's going to be happening here. But well, yeah, when we look at the lay of the land, it's a lot of sextiles that are going to be mainly happening here. This is one again where the moon is in aversion to the or to the benefics, so that's not great. But at least it's not having these hard aspects from the malefic. So that's at least a little bit of something there. It has reception with its domicile lord Mercury, so that's at least some positivity, little bit of positivity there. But this is where you want to look at the what house or houses does Gemini is Gemini associated with, and you want to know too if you have a lot of mutable placements. That's Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. Planets going through those points are going to be more active for you during that period of time. But yeah, this is going to be another sort of when the moon moves through there, the first thing it's going to do is form a sextile with Mercury. And so now there's maybe some change that's been happening there again. Like I think Mercury, we think about communications, maybe some sort of news that comes through there of, well, we'll just see. We'll see. Maybe the what news comes through, because this is going to be the day that Mars and Saturn come up together because, as you see, they're about 10 minutes away from each other. So we're reaching the peak there for that, and then Mercury's going to come in and form the conjunction with those two on the next day here. So there's a chance to see where maybe how some things are going to unfold, to get a little bit of clarity. The moon now being in Gemini starting to get some more light when we're thinking about that as well. So just being able to see where this future is going, that moon sextile Saturn in sight, how long maybe these maybe martial actions are going to be going there. And even with that sextile with Mars, that can be an understanding of how to kind of regulate one's force. Like, okay, like I see things are going to move in this position and I have this amount of time, so this is how I need to move with this level of urgency. Or maybe I have a bit more time than I expected, so I can give myself a little bit of a break, just thinking about whatever just hypothetical situations. But there's an opportunity here, I think, whenever we have those easier aspects with the malefics, for some sort of, maybe some sort of control to come in with this, some sort of way to deal with these sort of harder aspects of the malefics, to take the more. I think of Saturn in that sense of that Saturn teaches us to be disciplined, teaches us how to be resourceful when we're not able to work with a lot. Saturn teaches us can help us to bring one to like distinguished situations, and bring ones to better rank here, to kind of to it gives me that feel of, if the person that you want can't do the thing, if what's the saying that I'm trying to make? It's like, being the change that you want to see kind of in the world. They're kind of taking the reins on that, finding ways to get through to push through the kind of Saturnian obstacles that maybe come up there, to have that martial force to get to the other side of this thing, if that makes sense. But yeah, it's a very interesting one. I think that the moon is going to be forming here. I'll be curious to see what are some things that happen with that 19th, coming on the 19th, and then that's pretty much it. When we get to the 20th, the moon, it ends with the moon just kind of going through Gemini, just kind of processing this and thinking about what is forming as we move through this. And let me go ahead and switch over, but it's you see where this particular week gives this. It's a very kind of convoluted sort of transit that's happening there, with the moon doing all these, sort of having these little positive pockets, but then it gives me, even like when it's back to Gemini, it's like, all right, the fun times over. We got to get back to business. There, you had your reprieve. Now we got to get back to. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you got enough rest, because now we got to get to moving things. Get moving things in. While it's still maybe easier to move, because things may be a little bit, actions may be a bit harder to take when the moon is receiving those squares, when we get to that when the moon is traveling through Cancer. So that may be something to think about too. And that's another thing with astrology. Just one kind of last note: when we're going through those hard pockets, those can be tough, but it's recognizing those easy pockets when you have those. Let's say you how I have with Saturn and Mars going through Aries, that forms pretty much harmonious, like majority harmonious aspects in my chart. So this is a time where it's like, okay, I'm getting a bit of a break. So this is a time to get some things done, to get some projects moving, to the things that I've been like procrastinating on, time to get those in action again. While the iron's hot, in a sense, because then things change from one day to the next, and so it's seizing those opportunities while we can. And that's what I think, those pockets with those times in Taurus and those times in Pisces, seizing those pockets to try to do as much as one can with these transits and things. So yeah, a lot to think about, a lot to navigate as we're going through this, but we got this together, and we'll get this figured out. And I would love to hear, because it's like as we get through the 20th, like that's when we start to see they're still in a tight conjunction, but now they're going to start separating. Mars is moving away from Saturn, Mercury is moving away from Saturn, and so we're going to start putting that in the rear view. But I would love to hear in the comment section. Let me know how you've been navigating these, especially all these planets that have been going through the Aries portions of your chart. How that's been looking for you. Like I've been mentioning, I've been doing a lot of studying that's been going on there. I've been doing a lot of reading, getting some good reading done with like different astrological texts. I'm in the middle of Firmicus Maternus's book right now. Probably gonna go to Dorotheus of Sidon next. So I got some stuff lined up. I'm getting a book from one of Rhetoric's book, and probably Abu Mashar's too at some point. So I'm going through Robert Schmidt's lectures and things. So I got like a lot on my plate that I'm doing. That's just so much information that it's probably going to take that Saturn going through my ninth house to get all of that. And so, but I'm really excited about it. I'm really really excited about it. It's like it's work, but I'm like it's been fun work and rewarding work, and it's been introducing me to just different topics, different philosophies, very ninth house things. So yeah, that's been how that's been on a personal note. That's been going for Venus going through Taurus has been pretty nice. Going through my 10th house, thinking about the things that I want to do, stuff that I wanted to accomplish, how I can put myself out there more, put myself out there in a better fashion. So yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about with that one. So it's been a pretty these sections of my chart have been pretty solid, I would say, over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, I'd be curious to hear how that's going for you, and if that's something that you want to figure out how to navigate that space. Down in the description box, there's a link to book a consultation with me, so definitely check that out. If you have any questions that you have about the services that I provide, my email's down there as well. I have a couple of links for the playlist for the Lunar Shenanigans and for the Celestial News Monthly. I'll probably be having the monthly one for May, which should be coming out should be coming out in the next week, I would say. So that'd be something to look out there for. And I do just a breakdown of the month from the perspective of the sun and the other classical planets. So something to check out. And then I have these videos of different. I just recorded some ones, and I've been getting back on getting those more regularly. My schedule has been shifting quite a bit, so now I have a bit more time. I can play with my time a bit better. So yeah, that's something. I've been doing these videos talking about different celestial bodies in different zodiac signs in different places, and I'm trying to get all that series of done. And I'm going to do a more in-depth one of that on my Patreon. That's going to be, I'll announce when that project really starts rolling out there. I'll probably do the same way that I do here, start rolling dice, and I'm just doing it. So that way it's just fair. but Patreons, I will if you do have requests of that you want me to do, I will absolutely do that. So that's something to think about. But yeah, I think that's all I got for you there. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep eyes on that moon, because yeah, by the time we get to Gemini, we should be able to see that moon smiling at us. And I will catch you on the next one. Later.